So it's not that I don't believe that confidence is important. As a matter of fact, quite the contrary. I think it is absolutely critical to your success. It is critical to your becoming wealthy, healthy, happy, and financially abundant, and going further faster in your life. The challenge is that most people, their definition or their understanding of confidence, if they even have one at all, is askew. It doesn't serve them. And oftentimes people confuse it with esteem. And so what if I was to tell you that understanding what it is, how it works, and doing something about it will change your trajectory going forward? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's start off right here. Well, let's talk about the word confidence, if you will. What does it mean? Well, there's two different types of confidence. Confidence, if you look at the word, means to confide in, which means to trust. If I confide in you, I'm trusting that I can trust you with my feelings and I can trust you with my thoughts, that you're going to respect and maybe even help me with my challenge and things going forward. See, oftentimes people think confidence just means my belief in myself. And although that is true, it's your belief in yourself to be able to trust yourself. And what that means is this. There's two types of confidence. There's general confidence, of which we all have more than we can possibly imagine. Most of us never even think about the level of confidence that we have. Even people who say, I need more confidence, they don't realize how much they already have. And if you know me, I'm always talking about that success is built on success. So if I can get you to recognize how much confidence you already have, then there's a part of you that's going to go, yeah, I got this. I can do what's next coming up as well. You see, you have confidence in millions of different things. If I asked you, can you tie your shoes? Can you ride a bicycle? Can you drive a car? You're going to go, yeah. You got confidence that you can do that because you trust in yourself that you can do that. Now, how that came about, a couple different ways. Repetition, rehearsal, having done it over and over again. Your references will tell you, yes, I've done it before, so I can do it again. So I feel good that I can do that specific task. And that task is outside of you. It is a physical task, or it is something that you can do and produce a result that you are certain that you can get. But and everybody has that, by the way. But most people don't know how to bring that type of confidence into everything that they do. More specifically, things that they've never done before. Things that might be a challenge, things that they see other people doing that they don't necessarily believe that they can do. And I'm not saying that having confidence will automatically make you do anything. I'm just saying that you're going to stack the deck in your favor to be able to do it better than, say, the average person, or than you would have been able to without that level of confidence. And so, like I said, if you look at the things that you already do, that you already have, and if you've been around me before, I've had you write lists and lists of things that you've already accomplished, that you've done, just to prove that you have confidence in those things. But let's talk about what confidence is and the difference between confidence and esteem. Confidence, self-confidence, is the level of certainty that you have about something you can do. The level of certainty that you have about the identity that you've given yourself. Now, let me break that down. Now, confidence in, like I said, something that you can do outside of yourself, tie your shoes, ride a bicycle, write your name, drive a car, whatever it is, that's outside of yourself. So you have confidence, you have certainty that you can do that. That is general confidence, but self-confidence, which is the most important, which allows you to show up anywhere and go, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to try this because I've done things before and I'm probably going to do well at this before. And it allows you to rely and to go back and tap into some of the resources that you have, having done something before. The second definition that I gave you, confidence is the level of certainty, meaning the amount of certainty, belief that you have in the identity that you've given yourself, meaning how you describe yourself. You see, if you give yourself an identity, and you give it to you, by the way, most of us think like, well, somebody said this to me, and that's why I believe this about myself, and I don't have confidence here, and I don't feel good about myself. No, they may have said it, but you've said it over and over again, and you believed it, good and bad. You see, somebody may have patted you on the back when you did something really well, and from that point, you thought, I am a great person. but we give it to ourselves. So if your identity, how you identify yourself and how you describe yourself is somebody that's a good person, that's somebody that believes in other people, that's a strong person, that has a great will, that has great intention, then guess what? You have great self-confidence. Confiding in yourself, believing in yourself, that you, this person that you, this image that you've made of yourself, that you believe in that. That gives you self-confidence. And now you can understand why I say a lot of people think, well, I don't have a lot of confidence. All they're saying is in that moment, they don't believe that they can do something based on the fact that they have given themselves an identity that says, I don't succeed at things, or I fail at things, or I failed in the past and they don't feel real good about it. You see, there's always a foundation. There's always something that's always going to make you feel a certain way. And most of the time, it's built on references of something somebody said, or maybe you didn't succeed at something, or the antithesis, maybe you did succeed at something, maybe you did do something, and your body says, of course, I did that, then I can do this as well. And that's all I want you to understand is those two different things. When you approach something, to do something, you either go, I've done this before and I can do it again, or I've never done this, therefore I can't do it because I'm not that kind of person. And so the difference is what you've given yourself. Now, before I tell you how to change it, I want to talk to you about the difference between esteem, because a lot of people feel like self-esteem, I've got great self-esteem, and you may have it in that moment. But what does esteem mean? Esteem means respect. If you hold something or someone in high esteem, that means you respect that person. What does respect means? It means that you look at that person and you admire that person. You admire something about them. If you hold somebody in self-esteem because they have a lot of money, or they're really good at a sport or something like that, you respect that person. You respect the work that they've done, that they put in, the time that they've spent, the effort that they've spent. You respect that person in someone. You hold them in high esteem. But here's the deal. Based on what I just said about confidence, most people don't hold themselves in high esteem. And as a matter of fact, remember what I said earlier? That their understanding of it holds them back, slows them down. Because what happens when they judge themselves, which, by the way, you have to do. Most people say, no, I'm not judgmental. Yes, you are. Everybody is judgmental. But the worst person that you're judgmental about is yourself. Yourself. Most people judge ourselves in a way that you would never let somebody else talk to you that way. You would never let somebody else say those things to you. The things that we say to ourselves, about ourselves, and so on and so forth, sometimes it's absolutely horrible. You know what I'm talking about. But the thing about it is, what do you respect about yourself? Because the more you visit that, what do you respect yourself? The more you visit it, the more you'll feel, you know how I roll. The more you do something, the better you'll get at it. And the more you'll do it, the more often you'll do it. So if you just took the time and said, here's what I respect about myself, because most people don't do that. As a matter of fact, they feel like that if I do that, I'm being conceited, I'm being full of myself, I'm being narcissistic, and so on and so forth. I didn't say go out on the top of the building and yell out and go, I'm amazing, I'm the greatest, and all those things. And all those, sometimes those things do work. I'm just saying is, what do you do in your own private? What do you do by yourself? What do you do so that your brain automatically does that over and over again? The answer to that question is most people don't do anything at all. Zero, zip. They don't have that level of self-esteem or that level of confidence because they just don't do it. Remember what I said earlier? What if I could show you something that you could do, that you could develop more? And remember, development means just that you're developing into something. You're starting somewhere and you're going to wind up somewhere. And that voyage along the way should be something that is called growth. I call that further, faster. Do you want what you want sooner rather than later? The answer is obviously yes. And so, true story, I use myself not as some shining example of the way that things should be, but I do use myself as an example of what is possible. Years ago, when my first attempt at becoming wealthy, and in those days, I thought wealthy just meant making a lot of money. I took a real estate course. I took a real estate course from one of my dearest mentors, and one of the first people that really taught me about making money was a guy named Robert Allen. Now, I had already since then read the book, Think and Grow Rich. And in Think and Grow Rich, if you'll read the book and you go through there, he has you do affirmations. And affirmations are just things that you say about what you want. And I was fortunate because I didn't just want to, because I was homeless, I didn't just want to have, some money and a place to live. I wanted to be happy. I even wrote in there that I'm a happy man. Honor before this date, I'm happy. I wake up joyful and all these things. And I wrote those things down. So guess what? Because I'd already been doing that, I had a level of confidence in myself because I believed it, because I said it over and over to myself. And so I went to this guy's course, and his course was a weekend long, maybe Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And in that course, he taught us all, he said, at the end of the course, he said, I just taught you 50 ways to buy houses for nothing down. Now, this was back in the olden days. It was like in the 80s, just to give you an idea how old it was. And he was one of the very first people that taught people how to flip houses and how to buy houses. And he had this course called Nothing Down. And we would always say, nothing down doesn't mean that you're not giving the seller money. It just means you're not giving them your money. He taught us how to borrow money and things like that. And I remember sitting in that classroom, and I remember I'm thinking to myself in the moment, the course was almost over. Matter of fact, it was the last day. And I was sitting in the front row. And I was thinking to myself, why am I in the front row? And by the way, there were a few other people, but most people were sitting in the back rows. I do distinctly remember thinking this, and I always do. To this day, no matter what it's going to cost me to do it or whatever, I always make myself to sit right there in the front row. And I remember looking at other people. And earlier that day, one of the ladies had asked me, she goes, why do you always sit in the front? And I jokingly said, well, because my eyesight isn't so great, And she laughed about it. But that's what caused me later on to think about, why am I always sitting in the front? And I always sit in the front because I believed the things that I had been saying about myself. I believed that the identity that I had given myself, that I'm healthy, that I'm happy, and a happy person sits in the front. I know it sounds crazy, but that was my logic. And I believed that I deserved it because I believed that I'm a happy person, a good person, all the things that I'd said. And I believed that believed that I needed to, I was worthy of making money and things like that. And that kind of person sits up front. That's just the logic that my brain did. I remember sitting there going, wow. And the guy had a plan. And his plan was that if you buy 2 houses a year for 10 years, then at the end of 10 years, you'll have X amount of money coming in from these houses that you can live on. I think in those days it was like $10,000, $15,000, which, back in the 80s, that's a lot of money. And it still is a lot of money. But I thought to myself, and at the time, I wanted to do it faster. I was a musician and I wanted to become a musician. So I asked him, I said, Mr. Allen, and by the way, I spoke to him not too long ago, and I'm not sure that he remembered that, but he did remember me because I've seen him through time. He still does it. And I asked him right in the front row, I raised my hand. I said, well, listen, your plan says to buy 2 houses a year for 10 years. What if I buy 10 houses a year for 2 years? And I remember the look he gave me. First, he looked at me like, what, are you crazy? And then he got this big smile on his face. And he says, of course that'll work. He says, of course it'll work if you think you can do it. And as soon as he said that, now, by the way, and when he said that, he said that, there's a whole group full of people, there was like 300 or 400 people in this classroom. And when he looked at me, when he said that, and he said, if you think you can do it, automatically in my brain, I said, well, of course I think I can do it. And I did that. Within a year and a half's time, I bought 26 houses in less than a year and a half's time. 26 houses, and I still benefit from that today. Why do I tell that to you? Because that came from my own self-confidence that I can do anything, and I still have that. I still have that belief that no matter what I do, I'm going to be the best or one of the best at what I do. Now, the reason I share that with you is because I didn't always believe that. I believed it because I gave it to myself. I gave myself an identity. I gave myself an identity that Joseph McClendon III is going to be one of the best or the best at whatever. I gave myself that identity. So remember what I said, confidence is just the level of certainty, the belief that you have about whatever identity that you gave yourself. So if you give yourself a great identity, then you have great self-confidence. And by the way, that is the foundation of your confidence to do anything and anything else that you do. You see, you have confidence that you can, I use these examples all the time, tie your shoe, ride a bicycle, drive a car, write your name, do all of those things, because you've given yourself the identity that says, I can do these things. Well, what I want to show you how to do is to give yourself the identity that you can do anything you put your mind, your heart, and your body to. And it's really, really simple. And by the way, what comes along with that is self-esteem, self-respect, respect for yourself. And it's super, super simple. It starts with a basic exercise that I have you do. And that is, I want you to sit down. I want you to write down the things that you're already confident about, already things that you have no problem thinking about doing, that you know you can do and that you've done in the past. And then once you've done that, you know I've had you do exercises like that, this is where it starts. It's not just unicorns and crystals and rainbows and things like that. So I want you to just love yourself and things like that. That's part of it, yes. But I want you to give yourself an identity that works. And then secondly, once you do that for a couple of days, I want you to write it down. Just write things down. Well, this is what I do. Because then it stores up inside your unconscious mind, your psychology. And your brain says, yes, I can do this. I can do this. I have confidence inside your brain. And then lastly, second part of the exercise, if you will, what I want you to do is I want you to give yourself an identity. I and your name am, and then write what feels good. In my case, one of the first things that I wrote down was I, Joseph McClendon III, am a God-guided expression of health, wealth, happiness, and joy. Anything that I do, I'm either going to be the best or one of the best at. That was my very first confidence statement that I said. And I said it over and over again. And so your assignment is to write yours. You can use mine or you can write whatever you want. You don't have to be poetic about it. And by the way, since then I've extended it and made it even a bigger one. But it's a ritual that I do. Because remember, your rituals are what design your life. They're what shape your life. It's not what you do once or twice, or even 10 times. Is what you do every day. It's what you do over and over again. You see, whatever opinion that you have about yourself, whatever, let's just say, esteem that you have for yourself, it didn't just happen overnight. You've said it over and over and over again. And so I want you to write it down. Write down your statement and get up every day and say it to yourself over and over again in the mirror as you do that. And then walk away and pat yourself on the back. And then what's going to happen is it cannot help but be that way, because it's the laws of physics for human beings. Whatever you do over and over again is what you're going to feel. And whatever you're going to feel is what you're going to do. And whatever you're going to do is what you're going to have. That's life. That's the way that it works. It can't be any more simple than that. I say, see it. Write it down. Say it over and over again. Move it. Move your body as you do it. And that's what proves it. And as you do these things, what's going to happen is you're changing your psychology. Lastly, I want to say this. Remember when I talked about esteem? Here's what it comes from. When we look at ourselves, our own self-esteem, most of the time it's because we're comparing ourselves to other people. So-and-so did this, so-and-so did this better, and I'm not there yet. And isn't it crazy that most of the time when we compare ourselves to other people, we compare them as being better than us? Nobody's better than anybody. Listen, you can teach me something, I can teach you something. I've always believed that. My mom always taught me that everybody has something that you can learn from them. Even the poorest, weakest person in the world, you can learn something from them, and you can also teach something to somebody. So look at it that way. On another video, I'm going to talk to you about how to do that. But for now, I want you to start looking at other people and look at everybody as being an equal in that way. Yes, I can learn something from them. Another saying my mom used to always say, she says, if you can't say something nice about somebody, what she would say, unless you are doing better and have done better than that person and are continuing to do it now, don't say anything at all. Or at the very least, compliment them. And that attitude is what is when I see anybody, I just think, well, that person is probably better at this. Even the worst person you can think of, even a homeless person on the street, this person is probably better at surviving on the street than I am. I know that sounds silly, but silly things like that, that's what makes the biggest difference. Try this out. You have confidence. It's already inside of you. When you start to do this, what happens is it's a processional effect. It affects everything that you do. You'll find yourself waking up earlier, staying up later, doing the extra stuff. And when you go after something, you go, well, of course I can do this. And then on the other side of it, you must always, always, always praise yourself. Give yourself some sort of pleasure, some sort of praise, some sort of accolades, and some sort of acknowledgement that you did it. This will help you go further faster. Confidence is critical, but now you know what it is and now you know what to do about it. And remember this, life is always exactly what you dare to make it. And fortune favors the bold. So the trick to life is to boldly step up with confidence and dare to make your life magnificent. I love you, and I'll see you at the top.